Quit looking for an outdated educational system to teach you how to get wealthy. It does not benefit them. Understand that endowments pay your colleges to teach what they need them to teach, which is become an employee. They would never teach entrepreneurship. So it's your job to expose yourself to experts to give you better experiences, but you got to put yourself in a better environment. Today is the big letter E. Now, let me give you a moment of transparency. I already have an E framework that I created a long time ago. So I'm not even gonna lie. It's probably gonna pull a little bit from that. But because we're talking about money, I'm gonna make sure that we slate it towards money. For those who are watching me for the first time, my name is Brian N. Bean, and I teach mindset, message, and money. Those are my 3 areas of expertise. Because we're going 26 days straight, every day of the week. I'm going to use a letter from the alphabet, and I'm going to talk about money. Starting off, I do know I want to talk to you guys about education, right? That's the first E as relates to money. Now, a lot of times on my webinars and on my keynote addresses and on my Instinct series and on my podcast, you hear me bash education, or you may think I'm bashing education. I'm not bashing education. What I do think is that traditional education is extremely outdated. It just is, right? There needs to be a class right now in our education system on, coding. The power of that, right? The power of real estate, the power of entrepreneurship, right? You got business administration 101, but you should have entrepreneurship 301. Why isn't there a class on cryptocurrency? Why isn't there a class on Forex trading? Why isn't there a class on income shifting? The different things that I teach all day, every day. It's because the educational system is outdated. So the reason a lot of you guys don't have the money you want, or are not living the lifestyle that you want, or have the abundance that you actually deserve, is because you're relying on an old, outdated, antiquated educational system to teach you about money. They'll never do it. Here's why. Another E. Endowments come from corporations. A lot of people don't know that. So this is the best kept secret. Your endowments, a lot of institutions come from corporations. Corporations will never teach entrepreneurship. Another E. How about that? Entrepreneurship 101, because your corporations need you to remain employees. Another E. How about that? See, a lot of y'all don't know, man. I really am the Jay-Z of keynote addresses. But anyway, I do this off the top of my head for real. So a lot of endowments come from corporations. Corporations need employees. Employees pay more taxes. Taxes are paid who? To the federal government. And then it's a big old cycle. The federal government won't teach you, won't encourage the educational system to start businesses, because then there's less tax dollars in the form of employees. And if more people were entrepreneurs, then there'd be less tax dollars going straight to the government. Not saying entrepreneurs don't pay taxes. What I'm saying is the system is designed for you to be a worker bee. The system is designed for you to stay or keep an employee mindset. Because as long as we keep you at an employee mindset as a consumer and not an entrepreneur mindset as a producer, then you will go feed the other problem, which is big business. See, so it's a vicious cycle. That's why specialized education, E, is more valuable than generalized education, E. So if you want finances and money to be taught, you basically have to learn this yourself. That's why there's a difference between an entrepreneur and an employee. There's a huge difference. I won't hit on that because I got other letters I can hit on outside of E. But I want you to understand, you got to stop relying on the educational system to teach you finances, which is why you need to get more E, exposure. See, I'm taking 26 days, right? And it seemed like a long time, and I'm acting like it's hard, but it's really not. It's not even a month of talking to people about money when I've been doing that for like 15, 20 years, working from home full time. So it's really not hard. But what I want to do is make sure people get more exposure to the truth. That's another E that you have to put in the proper alignment. You got to get more exposure. If you're not exposed to people who are making money, and you're not exposed to organizations and groups that are doing well financially, and you're not exposed to mentors who have been there and done that, then how will you ever grow? If the only exposure you get is like if this is your conversation every day, oh, I got enough money to pay the bills. Oh, I got to go to my part-time job. Oh, when am I going to have a day off? Oh, if I just have enough Social Security. If that's the only exposure you get, then it starts to direct your thoughts toward money, because that's all your environment, another E, consists of. So if your environment is not exposing you to the things that you need to change in order to create an abundance mentality, which was back on letter one, which is A, right? If your environment is not exposing you to those things, it's time for you to change or switch environments. So environment, very important. Exposure, very important. But what do you need to expose yourself to? Another E. You gotta expose yourself to experts. Here's why. If you're getting advice from people who make less money than you, how much money do you think you're going to make? You understand? You have to get around people who have experience. The other E, right? Experience. So let's get educated properly first. Let's get experience second, from experts who've been there and done that, so that you can elevate your thought process. When I was broke, I looked around and realized that the reason I was broke is because everybody around me was broke. The minute I decided to elevate my circle and expose myself to other people who had far greater experiences than I, by default, my income went straight through the roof. Why? Because all ships rise with the tide. Most of us sit around all day and deal with people who complain. And that's why you start to think like them, because most of the thoughts that you have right now, believe it or not, they aren't even your original thoughts. They're actually somebody else's. So what you got to do is purge and do a quick cleanse and say to yourself, what are my core values? What are really my core beliefs? Where do I really want to go? And let me make sure that everybody, another E, around me is helping me with that mission. Where am I going? Is everybody helping me? Where am I right now? How did I get here? Are those people helping me get out of that situation? That's the most important thing right now, is your exposure to experts who can help you experience something different. Which brings me to this. A lot of broke people, all they do is talk about their expenses. All they talk about is their expenses. Now those of you who accept this challenge, this is gonna be a tough one, but just take some notes, because I'm flowing today. I'm freestyling today. All right. So this is gonna be a tough one, but no, seriously. All they talk about is their expenses. Now think back on the letter B. Go visit the previous video. I talked about putting your bills on autopilot. If all you think about all day is your expenses, and all you can imagine all day is how you're gonna pay them, then more expenses will come. Here's a good quote. I learned this a long time ago. I think it was Jim Rohn who said this, right? If your upkeep is higher than your income, then your outgo will be your downfall. If your upkeep is higher than your income, then your outgo will be your downfall. In other words, a lot of us hang around a bunch of people who want to look good, but all they got is a bunch of expenses. Yeah, the Lexus is nice. The house is amazing. The clothes are incredible. But all that stuff was purchased on borrowed money. A lot of that stuff was over leveraged. A lot of that stuff depreciates the minute they got it. A lot of that stuff is of no value to them whatsoever, because there's a new model coming out in the next 3 weeks or 2 years. So a lot of our expenses outweigh our income. So your upkeep will be your downfall. If you surround yourself and put yourself in an environment with people who say, you know what, pay yourself first. You know what? Live below your means. You know what? Grow your assets first. You know what? Let your assets pay for your toys. You know what? Nothing wrong with toys if they're purchased properly. You know what? Take the money off the top of your income and put it in your future investments, so that one day money will work for you and you don't have to work for money. You know what? Take 10% and help somebody else. You know what? Make sure you have your 6 months emergency fund so your stress level can go down. You know what? Make sure you have $3,000 saved at all times for a miniature emergency. You know what? Make sure you put more money in your investment account and not so much money in your checking account. You know what? You should always look to pay yourself before you pay anybody else. When you surround yourself with those type of individuals, and when you put yourself in an environment where that's the common conversation, your lifestyle will elevate. See, before I go, man, people look at me today and they look at the freedom and flexibility that I've given myself. What they don't know is that I used to sleep at airports trying to grow my business. I had a flight hookup, right? Y'all, I'm the only one that ever used the Buddy Pass. Oh, y'all don't know nothing about Buddy Passes. Okay. So I used to use the Buddy Pass. So I had a flight connect. So flying wasn't the problem, but I was so broke, the ticket wasn't my issue. The hotel was. So I would make sure I booked 6 a.m. flights, 5 a.m. flights. And then if I had a speaking engagement the night before, I would go to the airport at like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I would sleep on the concrete bench outside the airport. This happened a million times, I'm telling you. TSA, I know it's going to get there around 4:30 to start, 5 o'clock to start opening the gates. If I got a 5 a.m. flight, I might as well just not go to sleep the night before and go to the airport. But because I couldn't afford the hotel, I would sleep at the airport. That was my mentality at the time. But I didn't let my current temporary situation become my permanent future situation. Because I started to speak on the road, and because my name started to get out there for my trainings, and because I learned how to change my environment and hang around different people, now I have colleagues showing me where to get the private jet when I'm ready to get it. So I went from sleeping at airports, waiting on TSA to open the gates, to now having friends that are telling me, when you're ready for your private jet, we already have the connections. Why? I changed my environment. I bit the bullet early and made sure I kept my expenses down. I refused to let my upkeep be more than my income, so I would never have that downfall. And what I want to encourage you guys to do is quit looking for an outdated educational system to teach you how to get wealthy. It does not benefit them. Understand that endowments pay your colleges to teach what they need them to teach, which is become an employee. They would never teach entrepreneurship. So it's your job to expose yourself to experts to give you better experiences, but you got to put yourself in a better environment. Got it?